We're going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's December 1st, 2020, 7 p.m. I'd like everybody to stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we're going to have the invocation by Dr. Jeff Gravitt. He's the LDS stake, the second counselor in the Star Stake presidency. Yes, sir, please, up here. Thank you.
Our eternal Heavenly Father, we come before thee at the beginning of this city council meeting to give gratitude for all the blessings that we enjoy. I'm grateful for the opportunity we have to live in this community. Grateful for the spirit of unity that we feel here. We ask thee to continue to bless us with that spirit. Help us to feel kindness and love for one another. Help us to reach out and serve those who are in need, particularly at this Christmas season. We ask thee to bless us that we might be aware of those who are in need and who are less fortunate. I'm grateful, Heavenly Father, for our mayor and these individuals who sit on this city council. We ask thee to bless them for their efforts and for their sacrifices. We ask thee to bless them in their responsibilities. Help them have wisdom and discernment and clarity as they consider the issues that are at hand tonight and in the future. I'm grateful again for their service. We are grateful for this country that we live in, for the freedoms that we enjoy. Help us to be mindful of those freedoms and not take them for granted. Bless us to stand up for the freedoms that we enjoy. And we ask thee to bless those who are fighting for our freedoms, both abroad and here at home, those who serve in the military and law enforcement. We're grateful for them and for their sacrifices. We are grateful, our Heavenly Father, for our Savior Jesus Christ, particularly at this time of year where we have opportunity to think of him and to celebrate his birth. Help us to remember him and his life and his example. Help us have a desire to be more like him and to live our lives in such a way that that would be happy with our actions. We again are grateful for all that we enjoy. We ask thee to bless the proceedings of this council meeting this night. We recognize that all good things come from thee, and again are grateful for our blessings. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. Okay, roll call.
Councilman Nielsen,
Present.
Councilwoman Solmonson,
Here.
Councilman Keys,
Here.
Councilman Hershey,
Present.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, hearing none opposed, that motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of item 5A, claims against the city for November 2020, 5B, regular meeting minutes of October 6th and 20th, 5C, final plat for Moon Valley Subdivision number 3, and C2, final plat for Parkstone number 15, Heron River. And item 5D, findings of fact and conclusions of law for Davis Property, 1133 South Main Street, Graylock Custom Cabinet Smink Subdivision, and Sunfield Subdivision.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
I have a couple things. So on the meeting minutes of October 6th on page 2, during the discussion of the Haven Ranch subdivision annexation zoning, it says in there that council requested that there be at least an element of intermittent lighting for safety, and it should read, council requested that there be an element of intersection lighting for safety. And on the meeting minutes for October 20th, on page 1 committee reports, it states the Transportation Committee is working on an update to the economic corridor management plan, and it should say the Transportation Committee is working on an update of the economic corridor management plan. And then I have a question, I guess for staff, on the Moon Valley number 3 final plat. There's an outstanding issue where the plat encroaches into the floodway. And I've never seen a final plat where we've approved one of those before. Does that need to be resolved before we move forward with that?
Mr. Mayor and Council, we have approved those specifically in the Moon Valley subdivision. They're still subject to the flood certificates and flood review from the administrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before they can build on any of those locations, they have to have their appropriate certificates.
You're talking about that little
Yeah.
sliver there at the bottom of that one, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I guess to elaborate, I believe on that one, according to the applicant, the new floodplain maps show that out, or they're doing a Lomar, one of the two.
I think they're doing a
I think they're
Lomar.
doing a Lomar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that all?
That's all I have.
Okay,
And sorry, one more thing. I don't have the conditions in front of me, but I believe we have the standard condition that they have to meet all the floodplain requirements prior to building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So the claims against the city, I did notice, I think that there's one item, Trophy House Pros, that should go into a different category. So if you just look into that item.
Correct. Okay.
And then also, probably a question for staff also on Sunfield Subdivision. There was a note in there that you'll require that second amenity. I didn't see it in the condition of approval. Does it not need to be in there, or that will just, you'll make sure that happens later?
We'll put that in the development agreement. It'll come before you with the ordinance.
Okay,
Okay. Did that answer your question?
yes.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. So
You need a new second.
we need a new second, right? A new motion to modify?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion to include the changes
Second,
discussed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second with the modified changes. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, that motion carries. All right. We're going to move on to item 6. We have Star Sewer and Water presentation with Justin Walker and Greg Tominski. And I believe we have, this is the one that you wanted up, right?
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Mayor, council, staff, thanks for taking the time to let us visit with you tonight. So the sewer and water district in Star is getting ready to start a couple of pretty big projects that definitely impact the city in its continuous growth. As everybody knows, it's kind of hard to see that.
You want me to make it a little bigger?
Yeah, if you can, please. And then go up. So the first thing that we'll be starting in June or in January, excuse me, is the Southern Regional Lift Station, which is at the very bottom of the map, and it's the green dotted line that goes all the way out to Joplin, and then turns and goes west, approximately a quarter of a mile. And that project brings sewer and water to the south side of the river, which opens up a lot of land for potential development. And since that has been awarded to a contractor, there has been numerous people contacting sewer and water district, and probably staff as well, on development. So they want to know when that's going to happen. The second one is the sewer and water district is partnering with the fire district, and they're going to bring from Pinewood Lakes Lift Station sewer lift and build a sewer lift station at Kingsbury at the fire station location. So that opens up just a little over 2 miles south of 44 and north of 44 for potential development. And that was a rumor just for a while, but the rumors have been confirmed that we're moving forward with that project. And there's been numerous people contacting, I'm sure staff, as well as sewer and water district, on when that is going to happen. I believe it goes out to bid
Probably in May.
in May. So then that will be awarded shortly after that, and that project will start. So why I asked to come and speak to you guys today was similar to what kind of agreement that we had with the fire district, the city did when we purchased the old vitamin factory and turned it into a fire station. Was we're just proposing or asking if the city would be interested in investing into their future with either one of those projects. The total projects, both of them together, are going to be around $9 million. And then we're probably going to go ahead and add a well down at the Kingsbury site. That's just been something that we've talked about in the last 30 days. And once we add that down there, it'll open up, well, you know, the growth that can happen between the two locations. And I think your comprehensive plan that you discussed last month, there were some people here commenting on that were interested in buying some of that property. So what we were curious to know is if you guys were interested in doing something like that, investing into this. It is your future. It could potentially almost triple the size of the city limits of Star. And the sewer district plans on doing the project regardless, but it will take just about all of the reserve cash that we have to get those two projects done. So big question I'm sure that you guys want to know is how would we get the money back? With the fire district, it was very simple. It was a joint powers agreement that we put together. And then we just purchased your interest out at the time we got the bond. This will be a little bit different. You will get paid back over time, just like the sewer and water district will get paid back over time. And I'll let Justin kind of explain how that would look or how that would work unless you have any questions before then.
I do have a question real
Sure.
quick. So down here on that Joplin one.
Yep.
So we're saying that this lift station is going to be built and then as well as this piece right here?
Correct.
No, actually not. That's a kind of a build out plan.
Okay,
Oh.
all right.
So actually what's being built today is.
Oh, down Star Road. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that map's hard to see. What's being built today is the lift station itself, about a quarter mile of gravity sewer main to Star Road, and then a pressure sewer main from the lift station all the way up to the Pinewood, or sorry, not Pinewood, but Celestial Village, the 15-inch gravity sewer main that runs across Star Road. So that's what's being built today.
Okay.
In the future, you know, sometime
This
far
piece-
distant,
Right.
yeah, that sewer lift station could potentially flow further to the west and maybe a satellite treatment facility. That's what this plan is showing, but that's built out.
Okay. Got it.
Sorry for
Go ahead.
no. Yeah, I'd be happy. Any other questions before I share some thoughts and ideas about kind of a partnership?
So the $9 million you're talking about is for this piece here and this piece?
Nope, the $9 million,
Or is it these two here?
it's for this, what we're calling the Kingsbury lift station and the Southern Regional lift station. Southern Regional lift station is been awarded, and it's about $4.5 million construction cost. So, and that's under construction. Well, it's awarded. They actually haven't got iron out there and turning dirt yet, but they plan to do that starting in January. The other project is in final design. The Kingsbury lift station's in final design. That project will include, again, a lift station and then a pressure sewer main back to the 24-inch gravity sewer line, the yellow line there near the Pinewood Lakes lift station. So combination of those two projects are estimated to cost approximately $9 million.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, somewhere in $8 to $9 million.
Okay.
Any other questions before I?
I have a
Yeah,
question.
You bet. Councilman Percy.
About how long, if these were to launch today, and I'm talking about the whole thing, how long would it take to complete this to where they were functional to service anything to be built along those lines?
Yeah, so the Southern Regional Lift Station, like I said, is awarded. It has a 10-month construction, to 8-month construction period, 8 to 9 months. So that theoretically should be operational by August.
And that's just the lift station, no, pardon my.
About a quarter mile of gravity sewer main to Star Road, but yeah, that's.
Okay, so that
what
when
would
it's,
be
okay,
connectable by other.
Hey, Joe, will you make sure you talk in the
Oh, yeah,
mic so we
sorry.
get on the?
That's the lift station, and that quarter mile of gravity sewer is really what somebody could connect to
okay.
as adjacent development.
And Kingsbury is probably about the same.
Same timeline, but we're about 6 months behind,
Okay,
right?
so
6 to 8 months. So by February of next year, both will be operational.
nice.
Presuming we
February 2022.
2022, yes.
I'll hold you to February next year.
Yeah, well, that would be tough. All right.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
so you're talking about a $9 million total project cost, and you're suggesting that you could do it, but you would have no reserves if you did that. I don't think you're suggesting that the city fund the whole thing. What kind of participation are you asking us for?
Go ahead.
Well, whatever the city council would feel comfortable with. There is not a number that we've came up with that we plan on asking for. It's just, I thought it would be similar, my thought process would be similar to maybe what you did with the fire district.
Okay, and then it would be of similar terms where we would essentially have a rate of return that's equivalent to where the money is currently invested.
Yeah, let me try to respond to that. It won't actually be, I don't know that much about your prior arrangement with the fire station, but probably something different. Although I guess at the end of the day, it would be mutually agreed upon terms, right? But what the district has a couple different connection fees, and this might be helpful as you communicate with developers and folks as they develop in the city. But for the Star Sewer and Water District, there's a water connection fee. There's a sewer treatment capacity fee. Okay. And then there's a sewer interceptor fee and a water transmission fee. And you don't need to keep them all separate because in essence, they all get paid kind of at one time. Well, that's not even true. Actually, they're paid at different times. But what the concept that we'd like to propose to the city is that the district has what's called a credit policy, right? So if a developer were to come to the district and say, hey, there's a regional facility, lift station, let's say, it's a $3 million facility, and it's needed for our property to be sewered, and the district's not willing or is unable to commit the funds to build it themselves, they could partner with that developer, and then that developer would get a credit against his what's called a sewer interceptor fee. So instead of paying a sewer interceptor fee for every lot, they would just simply get a credit against that up to the investment that they made. Does that make sense? So that's on the books. The district adopted those policies both for sewer and for water in the last 12 months, actually. So what we would propose for the city partnership on either one of these lift stations would be a similar arrangement. And so if, let's just say for simplicity's sake, that the Kingsbury lift station was a $3 million investment. Let's say that the city invested $1 million and the district invested $2 million to build the facility. Then every time a connection hooked onto that lift station, they would be obligated to pay a $1,600 interceptor fee, okay? And so we would simply split that interceptor fee. A third would go back to the city, 2/3 would go back to the district, and that would happen until your original investment was repaid. So it would be a longer term commitment if I understood what you did with the city or with the fire station. That was a much shorter term. In this case, it would really depend on development. We would both be in the same boat, and that would be that our investment would be paid back as development occurred. one connection at a time. So that's really the mechanism that's in place today and would seem to be the most desirable option from the district standpoint, because they wouldn't be creating any new program particularly. Oftentimes there is, sometimes there is a sunset clause on these agreements, but that, if it was a developer, there would be, but that may not apply to the city. So that's one idea anyways.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
what is your estimated payback period?
Well, I'm actually not sure we've really run that number yet, but I'm sure it's going to be a couple decades, honestly. You know, I think right now our population projections for the STAR community is about 7%, and that's pretty modest. And in recent years, it's been much higher than that. But if you look at a 20 and a 40-year period, that's about what it is. And so, you know, I'd have to run the numbers, but it would take a while. And that 7% is not just in the Kingsbury lift station, right? That's throughout the whole community. Theoretically, that credit would only be for a connection that is sewered by that lift station, by that facility. And so we'd be happy to run some numbers based on different population projections and things like that, and answer that question better if we get further in the conversation.
Did you get all your questions answered, Councilman Keys?
I think I have enough for now. I mean, obviously, I don't think we're gonna make a decision tonight. We have
Certainly not.
other
Yeah.
things that we're gonna have to talk about, but I think that I have an idea of what you're thinking of.
Mayor Chadwick, I have a question.
Okay.
So what impact would it be if we decided not to partner?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, that decision would be made by the board, but my understanding from the board is that they are committed to move forward with both projects. You know, I presume that they will move forward unless they don't have the funds or the resources to do so. But as of right now, I think their intention is to move forward with the project. So
Okay, thank
probably
you.
the best answer I can give you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
has the district considered other sources of funding, bonds and the like?
We have not. We have a bond right now for a sewer treatment plant upgrade, which is 30 million. That is in process right now. It's 25%, 20%.
Yeah, about a third.
A
About
third of the
third
way,
way through.
third of the way through. And so we were going to use cash reserves to do this. And what prompted all of the moving this forward a lot faster was the amount of developers that are buying up the land and asking, when this is going to happen. And right now, land has been purchased on the south side of 44 all the way to Blessinger for development. And then there is other people that have asked, and then on the north side as well. Some of it's already annexed into the sewer and water district and into the city. And those property owners and developers are in conversation about purchasing that land since this became public, that we were going to move forward with that. And the same with the Joplin lift station, Southern Regional Lift Station. There's developers that are on Star Road and Chinden that are basically waiting for the lift station to be put in. There's a development across the street from the lift station that has been, he's just literally waiting at this point for the lift station to be put in. And we anticipate that just keep on moving. And got a phone call, must have been yesterday, about a developer that's looking at buying the corner of Canada and Joplin, and wondered if this would sewer it as well. And I don't know what is, probably had to ask you, but it's pretty much downhill. So
So I guess a follow-up to that question about alternate sources of funding, you mentioned that district has worked with developers in the past with the, sort of arrangement based on the fee, paying that fee ahead of time. Are you planning to continue doing that with these? It sounds like there's several eager developers. Is there potential to continue that sort of practice with them?
There is. The hardest part is a lot of the developers aren't starting right at Canada Road and moving west. There are some of them that are buying pieces of property that are kind of spread out a little bit. And so they're reluctant to run the mile and a half of sewer and water and then get paid back from the people that hook up afterwards, because that's how the credit policy procedure works. And so they're paying premium for the land, and then to have to put in $2 or $3 million more for a sewer line, it doesn't pencil out for them. So that's what prompted us to move forward faster.
I mean, I look at it, so if we were to partner with something like that on Kingsbury and those developments are not within our city limits, we would have to have some sort of agreement in place that requires them to annex into the city of Star at such time that it does become contiguous.
We already
Well,
have
but
They aren't-
if they're not
contiguous.
currently contiguous, I don't think that necessarily applies with the water, sewer and water. It's only if they're contiguous. And so we would have to protect ourselves in any sort of investment in that way to make sure that they do annex into the city of Star on that. Right?
Sure.
I mean, that's a lot of little things you got to think about on these.
I think that agreement, from my understanding, and I haven't read it, so maybe you have, but that agreement is when they become contiguous to the city, then they would have to annex into the city.
Is it when they become or if they are? You know? It is if they become? I mean, that's something, we're gonna have to iron out the details to make sure that that does happen, because I see this turning into a big poo show out there. For a pun.
And
pun word.
and unless you've already annexed into another city.
Unless you're already annexed into another city.
So, I mean, that's the third option, and that one's not in any
Right.
agreement. So I think that would have to be added.
Just a little more background. So the district over the last 3 years has about, $45 million of infrastructure investment. The district's either under contract now and building, or, that's really impending. And so they've really invested heavily in the infrastructure to keep up. I would say prior to about 3 years, honestly, prior to Greg joining the board, it was very much more of a, hey, we'll build it, or actually development will build it as they choose to do so. And so that philosophy changed quite a bit when Greg joined the board, and the district has been a lot more proactive. In past years, they wouldn't normally have built the Southern Regional Lift Station, or the Kingsbury for that matter. Would have just, if they would have relied on development to build it as they chose to do so, and if that investment was too high, this just simply wouldn't happen. And that's what's kind of been the case for the last 25 years or whatever. And so that philosophy has changed a little bit, and I think it's going to certainly benefit the city and the community, a much more proactive philosophy.
So would it behoove us to do a workshop in like January? Timeframe?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Keys?
So obviously, we're not gonna make a decision tonight, but I'm generally in favor of moving the discussion forward. And I think a workshop might be an appropriate way to do that.
You guys good with that?
Yep.
So what we'll do is we'll schedule a workshop time in
Okay.
January that we can sit down and just sit around a table and talk about it. And look
Try
at
to
the
come
plans.
prepared with some different growth scenarios, and at least so you have an idea of
Yeah.
what that might look like, and a return and timing and some things like that. Of course, it's all dependent on growth, but
With different values, different
yeah, different growth rates in that area.
Okay.
And I think, Mr. Mayor, one of the the things that we need to consider on our side is the cost of that, or the opportunity cost, I should say, based on the interest that we would earn on a significant amount of money over 20 years.
Mhm.
And, our fiduciary responsibility to the citizens who've paid that in, I think needs to weigh heavily here. And I'm not certain that, well, I'm not satisfied with the terms that I've heard today.
Oh, no.
And so I think we need to get a little more creative there.
Okay. And we can talk about it at a workshop and hammer out more details and
Great.
stuff like that. Yeah. See if it'll work. All right.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
All right. We will move to item 7A, the public hearing for the River Creek Landing subdivision. I think we have some folks out there to speak and we have some people online. So I'm just going to read the public hearing process again. I'll open the public hearing. I'll ask if there's any ex parte contact. The applicant has up to 20 minutes to present their project. Council can ask the applicant and staff questions. Public testimony, about 3 minutes per person. It's a little more difficult to determine those that are online if they're for or against the project. So we'll kind of just go with the list in that matter. The council may ask the individual speaking follow-up questions that do not count towards the 3 minutes. The applicant has about a 10-minute rebuttal. The council again can ask the applicant and staff questions. I'll close the public hearing. The council deliberate. The council will make a motion to either approve with conditions, deny, or table the application to a date certain in the future. With that said, I am going to open the public hearing for the River Creek Landing subdivision. I'm going to ask council if they have any ex parte communication or contact on this project.
No,
None.
Mr. Mayor.
None.
Okay, hearing none, I will have the applicant come up here, state your name and address for the record. And which, is it the River Creek presentation on the bottom here that you want me to pull up?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, all right, gotcha. Go ahead, sir. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's not, it's taking a second. I apologize.
Is staff doing a presentation or will I be the, okay.
Yeah, you'll control it, I think, with, you have a little control there. And if you can speak into the mic as best you can. But why is it not wanting to pull up?
It's a pretty big file. There's a video on it, so it might take a little
Okay.
bit. I can introduce myself and, oh, there we go. Am I controlling yet or?
You are now.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, pointed this direction. here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Dean Waite. I reside at 4283 Nystrom Way. And I am here before you tonight to propose the annexation, rezone, and preliminary plat for River Creek Landing. I almost said next slide. I forgot I got control here. Does this have a pointer?
Yes, there should be a point. There's a pointer on there as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the proposal that we are making tonight is for the 37 acres on the southwest corner of Pollard and Beacon Light, highlighted there in red. It is currently in the county zoned RUT, but adjacent to Star city limits. You can see there just to the south is the future school location that is owned by West Ada, which is in the city limits. In the Star neighborhood or the Star land use map, this land is designated as neighborhood residential, which in the comprehensive plans suggests that new development should be developed at a density of 3 to 5 units per acre. We are proposing that this land be annexed into the city of Star, and the preliminary plat we are proposing is 147 lots on 147 buildable lots on these 37 acres, which is about 3.95 units per acre, right there in the middle of what the comprehensive plan proposes. We are requesting an R5 zoning. This is to account for land that will be dedicated to the ACHD along both Beacon Light and Pollard. It'll give us a net acres once we're done with the development of just over 35 and put us right at 4.1 something acres or units per acre. It's just why the request for the R5. And just a note, we had some concern about the the traffic that this might bring to that area. So there was a traffic study conducted by Kittleson and Associates, and they found that during peak traffic hours, this new development should generate 109 trips per hour during the AM peak hours and about 147 trips per hour during the PM peak travel hours. And they determined that this would not be a significant impact, significant detrimental impact to the surrounding streets and intersections. This is just a copy from the STAR land use map. You can see there in orange is the proposed neighborhood residential, and we are right there on the corner in the orange, just right there above. The green is the school property owned just to the south of us. And again, that neighborhood residential is proposed or suggested in the comprehensive plan to be 3 to 5 units to the acre. I wanted to show this next plan. Some of the comments we had in our discussion with neighbors was concerned that we were changing this area. And I wanted to talk about what this area, the plans are for this area that were there before we got here. As you can see on this slide, this is the proposed plan for the Star School area by West Ada School District. Most of you are probably familiar with the existing middle school at the south end of their property. Beautiful school that's working well and serving the city of Star and the local community. They also are proposing, or is part of the plan that I'm sure you're aware of, is the elementary school, the high school, and the future technical school. And this pretty cool athletic facility surrounding all of the schools. I think this is going to be a great attribute to the area and a great attribute to the city of Star, and part of what created this plan and brought us to this area. This new school facility that is already there and coming is creating demand that brings the people that want homes and brings the developers to build them for them. We are, if you can see right here in the bottom corner of the school property, just south and east of, directly east of the middle school is our current development that we are doing right now. We're about finished, called Iron Mountain Ridge. And I just wanted to give you guys a look of what, how do I push play from this thing? Can one of you start the video, or can I do that? Oh, there's a play right there. See if that does it. Okay. This is our current development, approved a couple of years ago, that we are just completing right now. It's 29 lots, and you can see the middle school directly there in front of us. We are just east of the middle school. And this is a similar product to what we are proposing and would build in River Creek Landing. They're upgraded home with lots of amenities and customized to what our home buyers want. And it's a beautiful product. I think an asset to the area and an asset to the city of Star. And again, this is a quite similar product to what we're proposing at River Creek Landing. Oops. Okay. Oh, it keeps wanting me to play. It really likes that video. Sorry. This is the plat that we are proposing. You can see anything marked in green is the common lots that will be managed by the HOA and available for use for the whole subdivision. Extensive open space, and even above the new requirement of Star of 15%. And we have 2 different lot products. So in Iron Mountain Ridge, we're all pretty a similar lot size, that 7,000 to 8,000 square foot lot size. We're proposing 2 different products in this development. This western portion and wrapping around the south is our traditional 7,000 to 8,000 square foot lot, very similar to what you see in that Iron Mountain Ridge subdivision we are developing. And then on this eastern portion, they're wrapping up to the corner of Beacon Light and Pollard is a smaller, a cottage style lot that we are proposing. And again, the entire development is right at 4 lots to the acre, which is right in the middle of what the comprehensive plan suggests. And as we've presented this to the neighbors, there's been some feedback that they're nervous about the small lot sizes and what that will change in the neighborhood. And I was trying to think through of what the problems that small lots could bring. And I think the thinking that I was getting from some of the neighbors is that smaller lots equals more people, more traffic, more problems. And I don't know who's going to buy these houses, but we have built hundreds of these similar lots in other developments in Boise and Meridian. And though I can't tell you who is going to buy them, I can tell you who has bought them from them and what that has bought them from us currently and in the past. These next page. This is some of the products that we have done on similar sized lots in other developments in Meridian and Boise. And our buyers, most of them will be, I better, let me follow my notes so I don't go too long for you. A majority of our buyers will be mature, retired, financially responsible couples that are downsizing from a large, beautiful home into a smaller, beautiful home, high amenity, just with less maintenance and smaller lawn to take care of. That's what this buyer wants. And we have found that because that is the majority of the people buying these smaller lots, they will actually have less impact negatively on the area as far as traffic problems and poor neighbors. Most of the buyers that buy these homes from us are great neighbors, low impact, 1 to 2 car, as I said, mature retired couples. There will be certainly some single professionals and young families that will buy some of these, but again, a majority will be that mature retired couple, which I believe is a low impact neighbor, a good neighbor to have next to you. I just wanted to take you through some of the other product that we've done on these smaller lots in other areas and designs that we have that will work on these lots. Each of these is a plan that's been designed to fit on a lot similar to what we're proposing on those cottage style lots. As I stated, yeah, these are high amenity, beautiful homes marketed toward the person downsizing into something that's still beautiful and nice, but just a little easier to take care of. Back to our plat. I just want to reiterate the open space and the proposed amenities that we are wanting to have as part of this subdivision. With the extra open space that is part of this plan, we've put connecting walking paths. So we're proposing walking paths in addition to the normal sidewalk frontage along the road down this green space, connecting between the lots here, behind the lots in this open space, connecting through, basically connecting the entire subdivision through these highly landscaped walking paths. We've got a connection proposed into the school site. And then obviously our exterior sidewalks will connect through to future sidewalks that will increase the walkability and the safety of getting from point A to point B, especially with the school close by. We think that'll be a great amenity. We're also going to propose to install a children's play structure in this open space park area, along with a pickleball court and some picnic areas along this walking path. And along the path over here on this east side, we are proposing an outdoor exercise circuit. Again, those along with this, the extensive open space and landscaping are going to be beautiful amenities that will really help this be a beautiful subdivision. One thing that's not shown on here that will be reflected as we build is one of the requirements that we want to meet and probably exceed is the street tree every 35 feet. And that's not shown on here. We do plan on having that built with the homes, but it will be part of the development agreement. So in addition to all the green here that you see, there'll also be every 35 feet along the street frontage, a tree as is required by STAR. Thank you for your time. I am asking for your approval of this proposed annexation, rezone, and preliminary plat, and want to know if any of you have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
So you're marketing these to a retired demographic, but building them right next to schools. Can you help me understand that logic?
I did not say that we're marketing to a retired demographic,
Actually, I
but
did say that, yes.
no, I said that this will be, that is, let me go back to, so, yeah, we think a diverse product in here will be good because a lot of the people that are moving here, they're downsizing and wanting these homes on smaller lots are people that want to be close to the school to watch their grandkids go down to that beautiful football facility and go watch them play football and be close to them. They're moving here to be close to family a lot of the time. So that's why we like a diverse product with the family style lots and homes in addition to the cottage style lots that there's not that many of in this area, especially for a product that is going to have a finer, more improved home on it.
So with the request for 5-foot setbacks, of course, that does make for smaller yards and things like that, but our code calls for 10-foot setbacks when you have second-story buildings. Are you planning to have all of these single-story homes?
We plan to follow the current code.
Okay.
Yeah, we do plan to follow all of the city code for setbacks.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
so we typically grant zoning based on just gross acreage. So would you be willing to accept this as an R4?
Yes, if we're willing to accept this on gross acreage, then I don't think that's a problem with us.
And I have some other questions, but I'll wait until rebuttal. So.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So it looks like you are requesting a street side yard setback of 15 feet, which is different than what is in our code.
I'm not sure where that comment came from. We're not
Okay.
requesting any deviation from the code.
Okay. 'cause
That
I
was a
gonna
comment brought
ask-
up by the engineer, but he might be talking about some of the common lots on the sides of the, I'm not sure where he brought that from. We're not requesting a
Okay, so it
deviance
will
from
be the
code.
20 feet on the
Yes.
side street. Okay.
Yes.
And then are you planning to light the pathway that goes to the school?
We do not have a plan for that, no.
Okay,
But
would you
if-
consider it?
Sure, yeah, I mean, we'd be open to that suggestion.
Okay, and can you tell me more about the outdoor exercise circuit?
More about it?
Yeah,
So you've probably seen in the past, it's pretty simple exercise equipment built for outdoor use and to withstand the outdoor stuff. We have it going into a subdivision Meridian right now. It's sit-up stations. There's one of the stations that has multiple things you can do dips on it or other things that are built for outdoor use. There'll
okay.
be 3 or 4 stations along that walking path, that exercise path that I
Okay.
was pointing to.
So you mentioned, I think you said that there'll be some benches. Can you tell me again about the amenities?
Yeah, so we're planning for a tot lot in the area of this interior park open space. And then we want to put, I don't know if it'll continue to be the rage, but pickleball, we get a lot of demand for pickleball courts. So we want to find a spot. We did not show it on this plat because we've not finalized the storm drainage that has to happen, case stay on site. And depending on the sizing of that storm drainage will be whether we can fit it on this common space or we have to move to this common space. So as we progress and present the final plat, we'll have that nailed down as far as where we want to put each of those things.
Okay. Yeah, I think pickleball would be great. We don't have a lot of those around here. I
Yeah,
think there's one in Heron River
I can answer that.
Oh.
I'm the pickleball player on council.
or, oh, okay. Oh, at the school you play, the middle school.
The middle school.
Let's see. That's all I had. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Good. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here too, real quick. So regarding the adjacent properties, the horse property to the west, and then the folks that are right in the center of
Yeah, the
this.
out parcel right there in the middle.
Yeah, what concerns did they have and how did you address their concerns?
They had concern about lot sizes, as I stated, and we have addressed those concerns by building a product that was supported by staff. And then I tried to explain the negative feeling about smaller lots. I think, in my experience, it does not bring more traffic because of the people that are buying those homes. It usually doesn't bring more problems because of the clientele that ends up buying those homes. It's less people, smaller families that buy them. Not that we're marketing to that, but that's the demand and that's the people that are wanting to buy those.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Hershey?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question because it goes right along the question I was going to ask. The The last several hearings, we've dealt with smaller lots against a larger lot. And I don't believe it's everything that you're saying. It's more, they don't want to look out their window and see just a wall of houses. So have you proposed any mitigation, buffering, or anything like that for those areas
Not in excess of what is called for by code.
already? Thank
So
you.
what about stepping above code and doing more to make sure that we protect the people that have been here forever in our city? I mean, honestly, that's the issues that we ran across in the last couple of hearings, up next to these exact folks up in this area, right? So it's not about doing the minimum. How about doing more,
Okay.
right? I
When
mean,
when we go to create a subdivision plan, the first thing we do is go sit down with city staff. And we say, we're looking at a piece of property. What should we build here? What do we want to build here? We don't make up the plan ourselves. We try to follow what STAR wants us to do and then develop a plan according to what STAR city code and comprehensive plan and land use plan says to do. That's why the product that we're proposing is it's in excess of city code, where we've got more open space than was required. And that's what we're doing, I guess, to address some of those issues.
so what's the open space amount that you have and the percentage usable?
By definition of usable, I'd have to I don't have that right in front of me.
Because we have 15% open space with 10% usable as a
Yeah.
minimum,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, with the open space, it's protecting those folks that have been here for a long time. I mean, I'm passionate about that, right? I've lived here
Understand.
for a long time too. I know Todd builds great homes. I've seen them, right? They look good. I have no issue with that. But what I have issue with is the stack and pack mentality that we have going right next to some of these bigger lots and bigger, not subdivision, but people that have been here for quite some time. How do we mitigate the challenges and issues? Simply telling them about a nice product and stuff doesn't help the fact that they're going to see a row of houses right outside the back. Just on this property in the center, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 27 homes right around them,
Yeah.
with no other mitigation efforts to help protect that. With the subdivision that's just to the east of, or to the west of this, they came in there and they built a berm and a buffer in between those houses and made the lots bigger next to them, right? And created their density more away from them. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It does. And I
So-
guess my response to that is, if the city code and city direction for the comprehensive plan tells us as a developer what the city wants us to do, that's the documents that we're trying to use. And I wouldn't say that we're following the minimum. We're asking for 3.95 units to the acre when the city suggests between 3 and 5 units to
Right,
the
and
acre.
that's 3 to 5, so we can say, no, we want you to go back and do 3.
Yeah, but you're
Right.
saying we were suggesting the minimum. If we
No.
were trying to develop this to the minimum, we would ask for 5 units to the
You made the
acre.
mention of minimum. I didn't make that. I made the mention after you said minimum in there, right?
Oh, I said we were above the minimum, yeah.
Right. Well, just above the minimum is not, I mean, what are we doing to protect these guys that are right here is my question, right? I mean, that's the important part.
Oh, and that's one of the purposes of the neighborhood meeting, right?
Yeah.
It's not just to inform, but it's also to start a dialogue.
And yeah, I brought up the concerns that I heard in the meeting. I thought I brought up tonight and shared the way that we are addressing them. Yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
so I was going to hold these comments until later, but since you've opened this can of worms. So you mentioned the comprehensive plan. I'd like to read from the comprehensive plan. Section 8.2.3, land use map designations for neighborhood residential. It says in part, densities not exceeding 1 to 2 units per acre are to be encouraged in areas of the floodplain, ridgeline developable areas, hillside developable areas, and where new residential lots are proposed adjacent to existing residential lots of 1 acre and larger, and where those existing larger lots are not likely to be subdivided in the future. Your plan does not appear to take that into consideration, given that 1/3 of this property is in the floodplain and you're adjacent to lots of 1 acre and larger, at least some of which will not, I don't believe will be developed in the future or subdivided.
Can I address that comment? You made 2 comments right there. Can I?
I did, I'm not done, but
Okay,
go ahead.
I don't want to forget.
We can take-
I could wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, the flood zone, the floodway that is here is unstudied flood that is going to be studied. And if we're in the flood zone when we're done, this product won't be approved. But once it gets studied, we will build only in the area outside the floodway.
But you're asking me to give you an entitlement today without that, which to me kind of seems like you're asking for a blank check to be signed.
Well, except for it's written into the conditions that were proposed by staff that it would not move forward until we have that resolved.
8.3 of the comprehensive plan, it says encourage land uses that are in harmony with existing resources, scenic areas, natural wildlife areas, and surrounding land uses. Looking at the surrounding land uses, I'm not sure we're in harmony with that.
When I look at that
Thoughts on
school
that?
plan, I think this is exactly what that area needs.
That's one property line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there has to be some transition if we're to develop,
Mhm.
right? We're going to develop to what the area is surrounding. And sorry, I want to go back to one of the other comments you made about the lots not being developed in the future. Don't think that these other out parcels will be further developed?
I don't think that that home that's right in the middle of the Larson's property, that at least half of that will be further subdivided in the future.
But we are required to stub into it for future development because it probably will. I mean, it might not be in our lifetimes, but it is planned for future development, right? That's why they have a stub into it.
Well,
We've altered that before as well.
we
So,
have with ACHD, I know ACHD probably required the stub, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
I'm sure they require that. And discussing with ACHD and the nature of the properties that were there, they removed the stub on there too, because that's just a standard thing that they do.
Sure.
Right? So I could see both sides of that argument there, so.
I guess my question would be, what are you determining that this is not future developable land? Why is that statement in there and how did you determine that it's not?
Well, typically, if something is already developed on an acreage and is fully landscaped, my sense would be that the owner, if they were to sell that, would sell at least the landscape part as a single parcel.
Sure.
And in
The
this
house
case,
up
we
front.
have a home whose landscaped portion exceeds 1 acre. But at this point, I'm actually I'm ready to hold the rest of my comments until later.
Okay, any further questions of the applicant? Okay, so we'll go on to the public testimony portion of this, and did you want to speak, Mr. Campbell? No? Okay, we'll move on to the public testimony portion of this. Do we have Jake Conklin out there? You know what? There's a delay to the TV outside, so it may take a second here for them to bring people in. So Sean, I have 2 people signed up out there that want to speak. One Jake Conklin and one Joe Abreu. Jake? This Jake? Yes, sir. All right. You come up here and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Jake Conklin, address 11347 West Dallin Court, Boise.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, I support this project. One addition I'd like to add to the comments were made on the size of the lots. I've been selling real estate here in the valley for 30 years. And on other developments that have been built in the past, we've had neighborhoods that had generally good sized lots. I have seen over the years that the ability to mix use the neighborhood with larger lots and smaller lots has been an advantage to the buyers that are out there, especially for affordability, especially with the inflation we've had with prices here in the last 2 years, and particularly the last 3 months. it's very difficult for a buyer, any buyer, whether they're senior or a divorcee or a starter, to find anything that's affordable. And so I think this, the way this is designed, I think even though we do like to see larger lots, that being affordable for a bigger group of people is to a great advantage. So anyway, I support this project and thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Joe Abreu. Mr. Joe, it's your turn, sir.
He's still talking out there.
Oh, it's the delay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Name and address for the record, and just a reminder, we got 3 minutes.
Joe Abreu, 2730 North Rolling Hills. Obviously, I've been here before on other developments. Same problem. Stacking in homes like blocks. There's no room in between them. They're talking 5-foot setbacks, which meetings prior, you said you were not going to do that. You were going to stay away from that. And if they're talking about what he said, retired people, what have you, that's an unsafe situation for them themselves. Lack of room to get out in case of an emergency. The other concern I have is on the west side, I border this property on the southwest, which would fit into the overlay. So minimally, those lots all along that corner should be minimum of an acre. I feel that all those lots along Red Hawk Ranch, which is on the west side, all they are doing is intruding on that property. Those should be minimum of acre lots. Along the school, I don't see any point in stacking houses right against the school. I think that's a problem. And in some aspect, there should be a buffer zone along the school property, along that corner where my property borders, and all along Red Hawk Ranch. There should be some type of buffer. And also, that being said, there should be no 2-story homes on the west side, and in my opinion, on the south side. Because all you're doing is taking away skyline from everybody that's been there a long time. And you're stacking a bunch of homes in there, which is going to create impact on that area, especially if and when they ever build a school there. The amount of traffic that's going to be trying to get to that school, traffic trying to come out of this development. And one question I have on this, is that a stub road on the west side there? I can't really tell from here. And I don't know why that could be stubbed. There's no reason to stub into that property for future development, because I don't think will happen. Same with the Larson's property. I don't foresee them wanting to go anywhere. Yeah, maybe 20 years down the road, maybe not. I'm asking you guys, and I've heard what you said in past meetings I've been at. This is not what you're looking for in Star. I don't feel, any of you, from what all of you have said throughout different meetings and this meeting.
You got about 10 seconds.
I'm asking you to do the right thing. Don't ruin Star and the neighbors with developments like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's all that I had that signed up on the sheet here. So I'm going to move on to the online folks on here. And then do we do Will first? Is that what we're doing? Yeah, we can do Will first since he's showing there. Mr. Eason, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
There you go. State your name and address, sir, for the record. And you have 3 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Will Eason. I live at 10174 West Star Acres Drive in Star. I would like to also say that I think this development is not compatible with the area. I think the density is much too large, particularly on the west side with relation to the property there, which is large acreages, needs to have a buffer and larger lots, and the Larson property as well. It's a density issue. This isn't what we want here in Star. We should have less density and more buffering between the existing properties that are larger acres. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have, is Mr. Steve Green available?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Mr. Green, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you state your name and address, please, for the record? And you have 3 minutes, sir.
Absolutely. Steve Green, 9999 West Star Acres Drive, Star. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. When the comp plan was updated a year ago, I and many of my neighbors attended every meeting, and I can honestly tell you, I had no idea what R5 looked like, and I don't think anyone thought the homes would be so packed and stacked. R5 is not a good fit for this area. This is a rural area with large lots, and 1/10 of an acre lots is a total mismatch. Smaller lots equates to more people and more traffic, regardless of their demographic. To say smaller lots do not generate more traffic than larger lots is nonsense. I would also add, if a portion of the demographic are retirees, you should have larger lots and single-story homes. Retirees like single-story homes. Additionally, any homes bordering the encircled 5-acre lot owned by the Larsons or the Red Tail Ranch to the west should be larger lots and single-story homes to continue some level of privacy. This subdivision should be required to follow the proposed estate zoning standards of 1 to 3 dwelling units per acre and avoid 5-foot side setbacks on multi-story homes. Moving on to drainage, I noticed in the packet, drainage hadn't been decided yet, and I didn't hear anything about drainage in the presentation. Additional drainage caused by impervious surfaces within the subdivision will cause a problem downstream if that water is directed to the west. Please review the drainage plans for this subdivision and ensure the surface stormwater drainage is not directed west towards the Red Tail Ranch and the Star Acres subdivision. Special transition overlay area. The southwest corner of the subdivision, as Joe mentioned, is adjacent to the Star Acres subdivision and the special transition overlay area. This mandates that there should be a 1-acre lot, 1-acre lots, and or provide an acceptable buffer. Street naming, the subdivision has 2 street names, and I know this is a minor point, but if undiscussed, it could move forward. They have 2 names, West New Hope Road and West Merlot Street. West New Hope Road is the road that comes from Canada and bumps into Wing, and ultimately will be merged in with Beacon Light Road. To have West New Hope Road down in this subdivision, I think is a mistake. And I think it'll confuse people and it should be renamed. Similarly, West Merlot Street is very similar to North Merlot Place, which is directly east in the subdivision that's surrounded by the golf course. I think they can come up with better names for these streets. And also, say again?
You have about 10 seconds, sir.
Okay, and roadway safety. The access point onto Beacon Light Road needs to be reevaluated based on the stopping sight distance and the vertical curves. I have a background in civil engineering, and I truly believe there's a problem here. And I've sent a similar request to ACHD. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lauren Macy.
Hello.
Here we
Hello,
are.
can you hear me?
We can hear you. So, Miss Macy, is your husband wanting to speak too? Because I had a note here that said he wanted to speak, but I didn't have his name.
Yes, his name is James Baker. And since we have 2 properties here, he would like to speak as well.
I'm sorry, who? Oh,
James.
just James. Oh, I thought you were talking to other people. also. So just yourself and James. So you have 3 minutes and then we will have James get on there and do his 3 minutes. So state your name and address for the record, please.
Lauren Macy, 9605 West Beacon Light Road, Star, Idaho. We are Red Tail Ranch, and we have two properties here, 9605 and 9701 West Beacon Light Road, a total of 16 acres. I can guarantee you, we are not planning to subdivide. This is our last place we hope we ever live, and we plan to be here till the very end. I have to say that this project I am totally opposed to it. And I did not feel that at the neighborhood meeting that any of our concerns were in any way satisfied. And to talk about how nice the product is does not make it any different to us. When we got here 11 years ago, we bought because we wanted to be away from this kind of density. And we wanted to have our horses here. This is not a safe situation for that at all. So instead of honoring and keeping with the character of our property, and the properties around here are 5 acres or more per unit, they're going to an R5 rating and setbacks of 5 feet. Can you imagine that? Our setbacks are 25 feet. 25 feet. We are not allowed to build on that 25 feet. And they're going to be hanging over our property line almost. And I cannot, this is unconscionable. So consider requiring the lots adjoining our property to be 1 acre or larger with appropriate setbacks of 25 feet. And that the homes are only single story for our privacy. Next, we have a fencing problem. Our fencing is totally appropriate for having a farmland next to us. But we have livestock here, and livestock are dangerous to people who don't know about livestock, and they can get hurt. And if they cross over into our property, that's going to be a problem, both for us and for them. So we would like to recommend that a solid fence or wall, at least 6 to 7 feet high, needs to be erected by the developer to prevent trespass incursions along the property line. Care should be taken to ensure the strength of that, to avoid a vinyl or a plastic fence because those often break with age and the elements of sun and cold. We have irrigation issues as well. We have a share of Farmers Union ditch water that the pipe from the access of the Emmett lateral, our head gate is at the Emmett lateral, and the pipe is buried underneath that 15 acres between us and the Larsons. And it runs at a diagonal. We need to be able to access that. And it must not be disturbed, because if it's wrecked and you guys build over it, we will have no way of fixing that. And we will not be able to get our water. And we use that water for pressurized irrigation on our property. If you've ever seen our property, it's beautiful and green, and the whole thing is built up. So we don't plan to just sell our bare land because we have none. It's all developed for our horses.
10 seconds, Ms. Macy.
Okay, so the water runoff storm drainage has been brought up. And I think that the only other thing I can say is that this does not fit the character of what we came here to enjoy. And we had no idea. We would approve 1 to 2 acre lots for a single unit, and that would be something that would be appropriate.
All right, man, your time is up. And so we'll have Mr. Baker.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, hang on a sec, sorry.
Ms. Macy, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
So you're saying that you're not going to subdivide in the future, but what guarantees that? Do you have CC&Rs that would prevent that? Or do you have some type of an easement you've given to someone that would prevent that from being subdivided? Or what would guarantee that wouldn't be subdivided in the future? What makes it unlikely?
Have you looked at how built up we are with, we have an indoor arena. To take that indoor arena down, I don't see anybody buying our property. Nobody's come by to offer us money for our property because we're already built up. We're not going to take it down. Our barns, we're not going to take those down. Our homes.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just looking if there's some type of a legal vehicle that would, if you sold it to somebody else in the future, that they might think differently than you do.
it would be very hard to market this property in that way. It really would. You know what? This whole thing has brought me to worry about all that, but there's no way. Our arena and our buildings and everything, they're far too much to take down. We're here for the duration.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Macy. Mr. Baker, can you hear us fine there?
Yes, I can.
All right.
I'm
sir.
James,
And you sing your name and address also, please.
James Baker, 9605 West Beacon Light Road, Star, Idaho. I'd like to certainly thank Joe, Will, and Steve for their comments. They are right on target with everything we wanted to say. Red Tail Ranch is a very active breeding, training facility for quarter horses. Within the last several months, we've sold horses to Canada, to Texas, to Mexico, California, etc. So we are in this as a part of our life now. And that's one reason we won't be selling and subdividing. Our interest is in what we can accomplish here in the horse field. So certainly the things that we would like to see done is that some buffer between us and this project, the acreage on the west side at least that would be buttressing our property. We would certainly like to see 1 acre lots, if not even larger lots than that. Again, the 2-story versus single-story homes is a factor for privacy. The safety of fencing, as my wife has mentioned, for the neighborhood. Basically, we don't want humans to come through and possibly be injured by livestock on our property because the fencing from this development was not adequate to prevent that. Traffic has been another concern of mine. I can't imagine that this number of homes wouldn't greatly increase the amount of traffic in our area, which is already questionable, and the speed and activity, especially on West Beacon Light Road. I would certainly agree with Steve's comments that that access to Beacon Light Road is on a really dangerous spot where the road is going downhill with very limited visibility of oncoming traffic. So in general, I think we oppose the project, but especially the specifics outlaid for the current situation.
All right. Are you, is that all you have to say, Mr. Baker? You got like 40 seconds. I just want to make sure.
I think that's sufficient.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, do we have Cody Larson on, Dana? Okay.
Cody Larson, 93 West Beacon Light.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Larson. Go ahead.
I'm thankful for the neighbors that we have, for the support that we've been given here tonight. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, I'm thankful for the comments that you shared on our behalf. I appreciate that. I wish I was in the room so I could see your faces, but here we are. This does greatly affect us. We do have many concerns, many of which have already been brought up by the council and by our neighbors, and we're thankful for that. The idea of annexing for an R5 does not seem to fit with the landscape that's around us. As I sit in my living room, I look out to the east and I see the trellis. I think that's more of what my vision would be of this property. I know that growth is going to happen. It's the world we live in. What we're looking for is for more responsible growth, development that actually fits in and is a part of what's already here. This home was built in 1974 by the Barfus family. We bought this and we have no intention of developing or subdividing. Those stub roads, the one that you see there on our east fence line, that has no no place. We don't have any intention to utilize that for down the road. You are correct. 27 lots that touch our property line. I'm looking for larger lots as well, 1 acre home sites, a buffer zone, single story. I'm nervous, just like the Red Tail Ranch is, about people and animals. I don't need people throwing stuff over the fence or thinking it's cute to feed steers or horses or whatever we have out there. It's not safe. And I would like to see greater buffer areas and separation there. Again, I'm thankful for the council and the mayor. I'm grateful that we have some leadership here that's willing to look at this. And I think what we're trying to avoid is something along the lines down on the other end of Wing, the Trident Ridge subdivision. You drive by there and you just go, what the heck happened here? And I think if we did this type of development, we'd have the same kind of head shaking. What happened here? So thank you for your time. I appreciate all you do, and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Dana, was there anybody else on there? Okay. All right, seeing that there's nobody else signed up to speak there, Mr. Waite, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will attempt to address a few of those questions that were brought up and concerns. The question came up with 2 people about storm drainage being handled on site and not being passed off to the neighbors. We definitely will implement a storm drainage plan where all water hitting impervious surfaces will be directed to storm drainage facilities within the subdivision. That's one of the things I mentioned earlier about why we haven't finalized the amenity plan, because we want to make sure we have the right spots for our storm drainage as our engineers looks at designing that. A comment was brought up about street names. We have no problem with changing the street names. These are the names approved through ACHD, and they normally kind of direct some of that. And we're not opposed to, if STAR wants us to change those street names, to readdressing that. A concern was brought up about the Beacon Light entrance and where it sits. We actually had it sitting further to the west when we originally designed this. During our traffic study, Kittleson and Associates that did the traffic study was out there doing a survey and determined that this is a better site location because you can see down the hill from this location, where the other site further to the west caused a little bit of site issues. So this is the location that was suggested for the entrance to be moved to by the engineers that did that study. A couple of people mentioned request for a solid fence. We definitely will have that as part of our plan. It's shown on our landscape fence. There will be solid fencing included around our entire perimeter. Mrs. Macy brought up the concern about her current irrigation that comes through our property delivered to her. This is definitely something that will be required and that we will maintain throughout the construction process. We will make sure that her water is delivered and continue to deliver throughout our process. And in our final plan, we'll plan for that water delivery. Some of it is exposed and some of it is in pipe now. It will all be piped and delivered to the location where she receives it now. If that is where she wants to continue to receive it, which I'm pretty sure she does. That's what she's expressed here at least. One of the concerns that was discussed a little bit in that discussion was future development of these parcels, and Ms. Macy brought up the fact that she's got a fully developed horse ranch there. And I understand that she does not propose to develop that land ever, it sounds like. But just so that you're aware, we're developing a property in Meridian right now on the former Cutting Acres Horse Ranch, a very similar setup to what she has now. And yes, we did have to move 2 barns and take down some arenas and that, but the people that ran that horse ranch for many years got to the point where they didn't run a horse ranch anymore and sold the property, and we ended up purchasing it. So it may not be easy to develop, but yeah, it is potentially future development ground. And responsible growth was brought up by a few people. And I think they were addressing lot sizes when they were talking about that, requesting larger lot sizes. And when you think about responsible growth, when you're in an area where a lot of people want to be, which right next to the school is where there's going to be high demand for being close to that school. And the bigger that those lots are around that school, the further you push the development away from that desirable area. And 1+ acre lot sizes, I think a lot of us would like that in our backyard, but I don't think that that's responsible growth in an area that's in high demand for a lot of people right there next to that school. Let me see if there's any other questions that I did not. I think that's all the questions that I wrote down answers to, but are there further questions or clarification wanted from the council on those concerns that were discussed?
Any further questions?
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Waite, Councilman Keys.
Mr. Wade, after you had your neighborhood meeting with these people, did you make any changes to your plans at all to accommodate their concerns and the issues that they raised?
I'm trying to think of the timing of all the changes that have happened already, and I don't know from that day when, because that was a long time ago, and I don't know.
I mean that were specific to the issues and concerns that they raised.
Well, the concerns that were raised 2 days ago. These specific concerns, other than the ones that I addressed as far as lot size, people did not, the concerns that were addressed at our meeting was, and I think only 2 or 3 other people attended this, but was lot size next to their property. And we did not change the lot size from that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of the applicant?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman?
Can you tell me about the elevation changes in this area? I didn't see it on the map.
So where's my pointer? There is a contour map that's part of the submitted, but I don't know if it's not in my presentation. It's part of what was submitted though. But the area from the east end of the property boundary between us and this out parcel, that is really the only area of elevation change. It's relatively flat through the rest of this, but then there is a drop. And this property line is right at the bottom of where the property does its transition. And it continues on through
You want me to pull it up out of the packet?
if that would help.
Want me to do that?
And then to the west, that's all pretty flat then?
Yeah, from this point, from where this transition happens along here. And then, this is relatively flat and this is relatively flat.
About how much of a drop is that?
Yeah, it should show on the plan. I would say 8 to 10 feet, maybe 12 during the whole transition.
So I have these broken out. So 126 won't work.
Sean, do you have that available? The topographical?
Well, here, it'll be down in here somewhere.
Okay.
Or do we not have it in here?
I did.
Oh, right here? Will this work right here? It's not top level.
It's.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here we go. Will this help you describe that a little bit more?
This shows you, so this is the current flood zone, this blue area here. And this line is pretty much the bottom of where that transition happens. This is probably the top of that transition. So this 20, 30 feet is where that slope happens, mostly on this out parcel. Like I said, our property boundary is pretty much right at the bottom of that transition. So the slope is not on our development, except for further down here, it would be. Where this it continues, the slope decreases as it comes down, but it does continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
So you mentioned that you would have a solid fence there along the property. What type of material are you planning to use for that?
We've done both a two-sided good neighbor cedar fence and vinyl fence. And we don't have that specifically spec'd out at this point, and we'd be open to doing either of those here.
So in a previous development that went right up against areas where livestock are at, we had one of the developers come in and do a steel fence. Would you be open to?
I don't know much about that, so I'd have to look into that. I don't know costs or who does it. I don't know if our installers do it, but I don't know much about steel fence, so we'd have to look into that.
I think the concern about, interaction with livestock and not just people going to the livestock, but also the case of livestock getting out, pressing against a vinyl fence. Cedar fence is probably, a better option there. But a steel fence or a block fence would probably be.
Yeah, we have cedar fence surrounding the 10-acre parcel I was talking about now that has cows on it, and we have not had an issue at all with that. And it's got surrounding neighbors and that. So, and we'd be open to building that same. It's a good solid structure, two-sided, good neighbor on both sides are the same, where you have the overlapping pickets and that. And it's a good solid structure. I'd be confident that it would. I'm not sure what I guess they have horses. I don't.
Are you able to see through that type of a fence? With
No,
two pickets
it's
on both
solid.
sides?
Yeah,
The
they
animals-
overlap each other. So it's, a lot of the new developments have something similar to that. And but our one down the street is vinyl, but we wouldn't be opposed to doing that in this one.
Mr. Mayor?
Are you, real quick, are you done, Councilman?
Yeah,
Nelson?
go for it.
Okay, go ahead,
So
Councilman
I
Keys.
just want to point out that horses and cows look at fences pretty differently. If you've ever been on a horse property, horses eat fences. So it should be something that's not edible. To
Unedible.
horses.
Cows will too. They just can't get their neck up high enough.
Yeah, we would look into all options. I just don't know anything about steel fence and could not commit to that without knowing about it.
Any further questions of the applicant?
Yes, I'm sorry. I do have another one. Thank you.
Councilwoman? Yep.
So on the, like the map that shows all the houses, there's a couple on a cul-de-sac and the frontage, I was just curious, like how, let's see, if we look at, I can tell you what, it's,
In one of those knuckles or?
yeah, and one of
Okay.
those knuckles, like how wide is that frontage?
Obviously there's C data that I don't have on each one, but we did work with city and with fire on developing that and built it with the width of what is required and maybe a little bit above the minor requirement, but I don't have the data. Right in
You're
front of me.
talking like the width of the lot,
So
like
right
under
here,
50
like
feet?
These little areas right here.
So
So these
she's
were-
talking like right here. I think.
Yes, I understand what she's
Yeah.
talking about. I don't have the curve data in front of me on what that is.
So you got another
Yeah,
question?
so it
Sorry.
just seems like well, I live on a cul-de-sac and we had to, after we moved in, we had to rip out some concrete because of we didn't have enough of the grass frontage or something. And so we had to take out part of the width of our driveway and it just looked really funny. And so I have a very narrow driveway going into my house and these look even like narrower and I'm just thinking, well, how do people use that?
Yeah, they are our engineer that designed this. They're actually wider than what we started with because there was a concern with the that turn radius and the frontage, making sure we had the correct frontage on there. And so I don't have the specific data, but I do know that we're within what was suggested and that's why we made the change.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of the applicant? I just want to make some comments with you here. I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to encourage council. I don't have a vote unless there's a tie, that you go back and you work with these neighbors and stuff and redesign this, in my opinion. I just think that, and like I said, I don't have any issues with what Mr. Campbell builds. He builds some awesome homes, but it's the stack and pack that we're trying to do in an area that is got so much history and larger lots and stuff like that on there. And I think this is like the first draft, right? And I think there should be some larger lots and some buffering done to protect those neighbors that are around there. I have, to me, it's a contradictory statement. And when you made a statement that said, on those really narrow lots, I know they're under 50 feet. I think I saw that in the packet. I know they're like
45, I think.
45 or something
Yeah.
like that. I'm not a fan of that at all, to be honest with you. But to say that we're next to a school, but yet we're got a retirement age style senior, not senior, season, what'd you call them? Mature, more mature folks that move in there. Well, okay, well, that doesn't make sense to me, right? Logically, we're next to a school, we have more mature folks. Well, why not encourage more family style?
That's why 2/3 of them are family style lots.
Well, but not along Pollard, whether it's all packed in with 45-foot lots. I mean, I know you guys did pro formas and all that kind of stuff to figure out what it takes to make your product or whatnot, but I think this product needs to change and be more accommodating to what is already there and what's not going to happen for many years to come. We have one chance to make this right. And if we were to approve it just like this, that's not the chance, in my opinion. I think there should be some work done with the neighbors, try to make some accommodations there, try to make things work out, get them to buy off on it. That product that was, I don't know, what, a quarter mile to the west of you on Beacon Light, they work with the neighbors, and they actually had those same neighbors that were against them come back in the next meeting and support them
Sunfield.
on it. Oh, Sunfield, right? And I think that's important, because coming in and building into a community, granted, these folks are probably not going to annex in the city of Star. There are still people of Star, right? They're
Sure.
still our folks. They've been here
Yeah.
for a long time, and I think we just have to do it right. And Councilman Keys at one point on another hearing said, this product may be right for a different spot, just not right here next to these folks that are around this area. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with this. So thank you. Any further questions of the applicant? Because I'm going to close the hearing and then you won't be able to ask them any questions.
Do we get questions of staff?
You
before
could
we
have
close?
questions of staff. Oh, no, oh, yes, you could have questions of staff, correct. Yeah. You have another question? I just want to make sure you guys get all your questions answered.
Right. No, I don't
before
have
we
a,
Close it.
I guess, are you open to that idea of going back and working with the neighbors and having us table this? Or do you want a yes, no answer tonight and willing to accept whatever that is?
We are willing to work on this, but I feel like, so as a developer, there's some guidelines for us, right? And you guys have nailed those out pretty good and drawn those up for us. And these neighbors participated in creating those, right? They even said they were here for the comp plan amendment. And that is kind of our rule book, right? That's what you ask the developers to follow. And we meet with your staff to make sure we get a good product. And we've tried to do that. And we've tried to develop exactly what Star wanted. And I've not met a neighbor yet that wants a new home, a new development in their backyard. And so if we as a developer are trying to satisfy all the neighbors around us, we're going to get urban sprawl, big lots in places that aren't good, that aren't right for that. We are definitely willing to work with what the city wants us to do.
But I will tell you, the urban sprawl is not Star. That's Eagle did that for years. Star is not that way. We have a lot of not high density, but more
We have a lot of
condensed.
this.
Huh?
We have a lot.
We have a
of this.
lot of neighborhoods that are tight like this, and we're a product of our own demise, right? We talk about traffic. I'm going to bring this up. We talk about traffic. I have you go put in 147 units. Well, what if we were to drop that down to 90 units? I reduce my potential traffic problems that we have because we have no way of building these roads right now, right? If I were to approve this, we just created more of a nightmare like that, right? We don't protect our neighbors. We throw more on there because what you're in the business of doing is making money, and we just got to be honest about it, right? That
And
you're trying to get as
satisfying
much
a
as,
need. There's a
right?
need for this product, right?
Well, there's a need, but is there a need for as much? Because I talked to just as many people in this community that have just moved in that wish that we had bigger lots in the city of Star. And all I see is developments that want to come in and put all these condensed lots because there's a perception out that there's a need. There's a need because people want housing, right? There's an incredible number of people moving into our area. It's insane, right? I've been in Star since 1994, and I've seen this thing just blow up, right? And so what if we do this the right way? What if it is bigger lots and you get other families that are in there that would be more apt to be utilizing these schools than a mature, seasoned individual, right?
Sure.
That's where I'm at with this, right? Like I said, this may fit right in a different spot, but not right here. I don't think it is. You bring up the school thing, I'm not convinced the school will ever get built. I've had conversations with West Ada School District,
Well,
right?
there
Because you
is-
know that Owyhee High School is going to open up this next year, and all the Star kids are going to that school, and that was their plan.
I
I
understand.
try to get them to switch that to Star, and they don't have any interest in that.
Yeah.
I know this is a master plan for a long-term deal. I don't think it's going to happen in 10, 15 years. I really don't.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, but the school is there. There's a school there that
There's
makes
a middle school.
people
there.
want to live by that school.
There's a middle school.
And
there.
the demand, this is an area where people want to live. And the larger those lots, we push that growth out. And that, when you push out the growth away from a center where people want to be, that's what I'm talking about when I say urban sprawl.
Sure, no, I get that, but this isn't the center. This is on the outskirts. That school district bought that land on the outskirts of the city of Star. The growth and the higher density of folks is in the center of Star right now, where it started. This is on the outer skirts while we're working our way up towards that hill, which has 10-acre lots up on the hill, right? I mean, we're not that far away from that. Just right down Pollard from this, down the golf course, there's 5 and 10-acre properties right across the street down there. I mean, so the higher density doesn't necessarily make sense, in my opinion. It may be in your opinion, because you do this all the time, right? But it doesn't necessarily make sense for me, for my community on what's happening. So I would prefer to see you work with the neighbors and come up with a product that is gonna fit, because the beauty of it, it's an annexation. There is no entitlement. You have zero entitlement right now, right?
Understood.
So
Yeah.
we could
It's
deny
not
it.
the city of Stars. Yeah.
Right. And I granted, we have a plan. Mike, Councilman Keys read you some things out of our plan, how we try to protect our neighbors and all that kind of stuff. That's what we need to do. We need to protect the folks that have been here while trying to help you develop lands that you want to develop, right? So, and, you know, I just keep being a dead horse to death. I'm sorry. So I'll leave it with that on there. Thank you. Any further questions of the applicant here before we close it?
Mr. Mayor, just to make sure this gets into the public record, we received a letter from the Idaho Department of Water Resources, and in that letter it says, the application to the city of Star must include BFE determinations and a LOMR is required. The following NFIP regulations apply to this project. Title 44 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 60.3B3 require that all new subdivision proposals and other proposed developments, including proposals for manufactured parks and subdivisions greater than 50 lots or 5 acres, whichever is lesser, include within such proposals base flood elevation data. And it's signed by the NFIP state coordinator. And I recognize that you said that this is something you want to do later.
Can I address that?
I wish you would, but I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here a little bit.
The reason that we would put that off is because we are not annexed into Star, and we would have to work with the county on that flood elevation, and we would prefer to work with the city of Star flood coordinator, and we cannot do that until we are annexed into the city of Star. So that's why we are holding off. We have already engaged our flood engineer. He's very familiar with this product. He's the one that did the plan for us just down the road. He is going to do this plan, but we cannot start that until we've been annexed.
And it could be a condition in there anyway, right? I mean, it's already a condition, I think, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. We would rather have it done now too.
Okay, anything further? None? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I will close the public hearing. And we will, correct? Yeah, we'll close the public hearing. We'll go to deliberations.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hershey.
You know, I agree with what I've heard today, and the reason I didn't ask many questions was I could see we were at an impasse. And, you know, I do believe that you do build a good product. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind there, especially when you mention a pickleball court. I mean, my heart fluttered. But when I hear the comments from the neighbors, which are comments that I've heard very similarly in the last few months concerning developments such as this in this area. And it's true, if this was somewhere else, this development here was somewhere else, I actually like it. But for where it is, it just doesn't quite fit. And therefore, at this time, with all the comments that have been made and captured, I do believe they need to go back and talk to the neighbors, reevaluate this design and bring it forth again. Because just like we did 2 weeks ago, every single person that testified retestified with positive notions of the subdivision that were adamantly against it at first, came back and said, they came to us, we worked it out, and everybody's happy. And I do not believe that subdivision even changed really all that much. It was actually a pretty simple solutions. So I'm for a tabling. I don't like to deny right off the bat, but I'm for a tabling to let them have another shot at this. I don't know what date that'd be.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
frankly, I think this proposal tonight is premature. I think that section 8.23 that I read from, 8.3, 8.53 of the comprehensive plan, we're really not taking into consideration with this proposal. I recognize the tension between working with the county and working with the city on this flood thing, but the applicant's asking for an entitlement until we understand what that's going to be. Asking for a preliminary plat, we don't really have a drainage plan yet. I think that I just don't think this is fully baked at this point. So I'm not going to be in favor of this application tonight. Thank you.
Okay, anything further?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
So I tend to concur with Councilman Key's remarks. I think those sections of the comprehensive plan need some attention as they apply to this particular application. I think that going ahead with an annexation to allow them to start working with the city instead of the county, I don't know if that's something that could be tolerable. The applicant said they're willing to come in at an R4 zoning. Annexing at that zoning level, I think matches our comprehensive plan and will allow us to start to address some of the other things like the flood zone and stuff like that. So interested on what the rest of the council feels about that here tonight. But certainly, and I guess quick question of staff, we're not dealing with the special transition overlay district in this application, right? So I appreciate that Mr. Joe's on that very corner, but I don't think that counts as a border. Is that correct? Okay. So we're not, dealing with the matchup with the lot sizes and things like that we were in some of these other applications. Having said that, though, I think that, where our comprehensive plan calls out that 1 to 2 units per acre are encouraged in areas, that are proposed to adjacent existing residential lots of 1 acre or larger, where those are not likely to be subdivided in the future. The predictions are really hard to make, especially about the future, right? And so I don't know if that means ever, because, if we're going to go out 200 or 300 years, this whole area might be redeveloped or something might happen. I don't know. So I guess I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, the Larsons and others who are there now and indicating that they intend to be there for the next 20 years or longer, operating their property as it is. And so from my perspective, that's the future. And I think if we start looking beyond 20 years, it becomes really difficult to make a prediction as to what would happen. And so I think those things need to be taken into consideration. And I really would like to see, neighbors coming to us saying, hey, we've worked with this developer. This developer is, trying to do what's right for the community and make things right for us. I realize, the developers are property owners too, and ownership has privileges. When you buy your property, you don't buy the view that goes across somebody else's property. When you buy your property, you don't buy the right to tell your neighbors right next to you exactly what they can and cannot do with their property. At the same time, I think that there's a look and feel to the community that we need to respect. And I really appreciate, Mayor, your comments about, the density occurring closer to that center of Star, and as we're getting further out, we're expecting that to relax a little bit. So lots of things to consider. I would love to see this come back with some of those things in mind. And again, interested in council comments on annexation here tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
to respond specifically, I would be reluctant to do an annexation at an R4. I mean, that's an entitlement. If the floodplain study doesn't work out, they're still entitled to R4 on this property, which could be even more density on what they're developing than what they're proposing tonight. I would be reluctant to grant any entitlement beyond R2, given what I know tonight, given what I've heard tonight in public testimony and in the record.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Sorry, I will go ahead if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
I think that that's an interesting idea, Councilman Nielsen, but about the moving ahead with the annexation. But I agree also with Councilman Keys. I think that I too wouldn't be comfortable with it because we don't know what that could, how dense that can be at an R4 either. So tonight, I feel like we should table this. I think that the applicant would bring a great product. But I think, the density just, and I'm very hearing from the neighbors concerned with that. So I would like to see it tabled.
Okay. Any further comments? Did you have another one?
I was just going to add my thoughts on the annexation. I tend to agree more with Councilman Keys' approach. I don't want to cause an entitlement. I also don't even believe we can annex it anything less than they asked for without asking them. And we've closed that part.
Sure, the applicant did agree to annex in at 4.
At 4, yeah, but
per acre.
with the flood issues not resolved, that might be, it just might not work. And by allowing them to come back at a later date, addressing some of these other concerns, it gives them a time to be here and also let them evaluate that as well.
Yeah, I guess, and that's fine. I'm not trying to convince anyone. It was just an idea to help with that floodplain discussion and then to lock in on that 4 units per acre.
So there's no way they can talk to us about this without being in the city?
That's what was represented to us. I don't
Yeah,
know any different.
This seems strange.
Mr. Mayor, a couple things that, and I think get our city engineer up here. I'm concerned, you need to make a decision about the floodplain. If they can't, because you got to remember, there's multiple applications here, including an annexation. They don't own, I don't believe they own the property yet. So do you guys own the property? Okay. So I guess they could commit to the annexation. When they came to staff several months ago, the flood administrator told them that they could move forward with the conditions on that BFE, unnumbered BFE. And I believe I've had discussions with the city engineer over the last week about that being a appropriate condition. We've done that before. You guys need to make this decision, but having them kind of juggle and try to redesign a subdivision, it might bring back to you, and then you might say, well, you can't do anything without the BFE, is giving them kind of a false direction. So I think you need to get your city engineer up to kind of discuss that item. You can do an entitlement and condition it to meet those drainage and floodplain requirements. You've done that before. You got to look at two things. You're looking at entitlement, trying to figure out a density and appropriate transition, obviously. And then you've got the discussion about the floodplain. Another suggestion is annex it with a concept plan and handle it through your development agreement. And then that way they can at least go forward with that BFE study.
Can you explain that further, the concept plan, annex with the concept plan?
With the plan that they provided?
Well, have them work with the neighbors, work with staff in the city, try to figure out a concept plan rather than a preliminary plat. That way they can just, they can figure out exactly what their density is. I mean, who knows if it's going to pencil out for them by the time they get this redesigned. And I don't know how long it's going to take to do a BFE study either. So, yeah, so again, I'd hate for you to send them off to work with the neighbors and come up with a design only to turn around and tell them, well, we can't approve you because you haven't got this floodplain worked out.
I think you should condition the floodplain thing.
That's what
in the
staff,
future.
that's what staff and the engineers recommending.
I don't think you should annex anything yet until you have, in my opinion, give them an entitlement of any zone, because there's too many loopholes, I think. At that point, I think they need to go back and work with the neighbors and come back with a plan, but just understand that in our conditions that we'll have this floodplain thing, because they can't do anything anyway unless that's fixed there, right?
Well, and a part of the property can be developed.
So the 2/3 that's not in that floodplain, right?
What are we anticipating that this floodplain determination is going to say? That yes, you can develop in the floodplain, or no, you cannot develop in the floodplain? Is that what, is it a binary?
Can I add comment?
No. Sorry.
But you can reopen.
We can ask our engineer or staff.
Okay.
Sorry. Because then I have to reopen the whole hearing for everybody. Would you have an answer since you're our flood guy?
I would have an answer for that. This is a flood plain, not a floodway, which means you can build homes in a floodway or in a floodplain, as long as those homes are flood proofed. And one way to flood proof those homes is to make sure that the finished floor elevation is 2 foot above whatever that base flood elevation is determined. The applicant is correct that he can't officially submit the floodplain application unless he's submitted or unless he's annexed into the city. That doesn't mean that they can't get their engineer starting moving forward so they have an idea of what those base flood elevations are, and that we as city staff can do a unofficial cursory review of that. So we all feel comfortable when that's annexed, what those base flood elevations are going to be.
So when you're saying that it's 2 foot above the base flood elevation, that means they could bring in fill?
Absolutely.
Right? Or they can just build them higher?
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct. So they could build pads up, they can build, the other problem you have is they've got to be either on pads, or the crawl spaces can only be so deep, and those crawl spaces are limited to how low below that flood elevation they can be as well. But there are ways to do that through fill. This particular floodplain that comes down through here is stormwater that comes potentially from the foothills and comes down through this area. In theory, they could fill the entire property and put pipe in the ground to convey whatever that flood water needs to be. So there is potential with fill, with dollars that they could pretty much do anything they wanted based on approval, obviously, from council. But in my mind, we've seen similar stuff just downstream of this. Iron Mountain Estates comes to mind. They had a flood plain that ran through their property. They did the studies, they filled closer. They were able to narrow that flood plain from about 150 feet to about 40 feet wide based on fill and what they did. So there's definitely potential for this applicant to fill the ground and move forward with what they've got, based on if you're just looking at what the flood impacts would do.
Okay. That answer your guys' questions? Does that satisfy you, Michael, at all? Or
It does. It clarifies that. I'm still struggling with this project at the way it's presented being out of character with this part of the city. I'm not inclined to grant any entitlements tonight. I would, at a minimum, want them to work with the neighbors and see if they can come up with a proposal that makes more sense for that part of the city.
But we could have the flood stuff that you were questioning on the conditions, based on what our flood guy is talking about, right? I mean,
Only if we do an annexation and grant an entitlement that I'm not gonna vote for tonight. So,
right,
yeah.
okay. Okay,
But you mean a future condition?
a future
If it
condition.
gets to that point.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that.
I just want to make sure that, based on what Sean's saying, they understand that we're not going to have you go do all this work and then come back and then say, well, you need to get to BFE before I make an approval.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to make sure that that's clear for them on that.
That's all I'm concerned about. I'm
Right.
not asking anybody to make a decision tonight on anything, but just to give the direction to the applicant and what you're gonna want to see,
Okay.
and expectations.
Okay? All right.
Mayor Chadwick, I'm
Councilman Nielsen.
going to make a motion that we table this hearing tonight for a date certain in the future.
So we have to determine that date.
And I'm looking probably second meeting of January at the earliest.
So,
Or first meeting in February?
what? Well, we have
I just
one,
don't know if they're gonna have the timing and getting everything.
but we
back to
have
us.
one table to that second meeting already, right?
So I'm going to set it then to the first meeting in February,
February 2nd?
February 2nd, 2021. Well, I guess that's all that needs to be included in the motion, but just direct staff and applicant to really hone in on those elements of our comprehensive plan that address densities in this area next to other properties that are 1 acre and larger and in floodplains, and work with the neighbors. I want to see neighbors who are coming back in support.
Mr. Mayor and Council, do you want to give them any more guidance on the east and the south? I think everyone understands what's looking for as far as the transition on the west and in the middle there. But as far as the lot sizes, density, things like that, do you want to give them any direction for the south and the east of the project?
Well, I think I'd concur with the mayor's comments that we'd rather see this down closer to the 3 units per acre than the 4 or 5. So I would encourage that we pull density out, that we pull setbacks, pull this into the area of our code where setbacks are 10 foot on the sides rather than 5, or at least 5 per story. So that'll conclude my motion tonight.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion's carried. The hearing's tabled to February 2nd, 2021. Yes, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to item 7. Oh, do you want your thumb drive? Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7B, review and discussion. Piece of carpet was holding me up here. I'm not sure where that came from. So we're going to move on to item 7B, review discussion on the Keller Engineering Park improvements. I have Ryan here so he can help discuss this. This is for professional services. We have on our plans to do improvements at Hunters Creek Park, to do the Pavilion Park, and to do improvements at Blake Park, right?
Correct.
And so that this contract here, when you discuss the contract, you're more in tune with it. So tell us all about it.
So these projects really come down to, and the mayor and Bob Little and I have met a couple of times discussing different scopes of what these projects are. We've kind of outlined the intent in the attachment A, But a quick summary is for the we'll start with Hunter Creeks Park because that's the one that we're trying to move forward first. That's basically going to be placing concrete between the two baseball dugouts and the concession stand, and then also putting some CMU block wall behind the dugout, or not behind that, but along the backstop, to have area for picnic tables. And part of that scope is also to route for sprinkler irrigations, make sure that we're not impacting any existing sprinkler out there. And then also putting conduits for electrical outlets behind home plate of each baseball field. And then also running some electrical conduits out to between the two ball fields out to for future expansion for scoreboards out between the baseball fields and the soccer fields.
And part of that, a lot of this is dealing with making it ADA compliant. And so which really interested me on the slope and stuff when Ryan and I were out there, how actually not difficult it's going to be to make it ADA compliant out in that area, which is, I think, outstanding. Because it'll open it up for a whole bunch of different options for folks. So.
Yep, and that will, these fees include looking at stormwater we're obviously adding a fair amount of concrete out there. So we're gonna have to do something to mitigate for that hard surface out there. And we're looking at stormwater improvements for that. And then moving over to Pavilion Park, about 3 years ago, I think it was 2017, we did some concept plans for Pavilion Park. The city has kind of moved in a different direction. So we want to update those concept plans. Instead of having tennis courts, we're looking at pickleball courts out there. We're looking at a dog park. Several of the neighbors have already formed a committee. They've got some preliminary ideas put together, and the goal is to work with them, incorporate those ideas. We'll do the concept plan and then move directly forward with the phase one improvements, which would include all of the dog park, including parking lot. Again, stormwater. Part of that parking lot would be out by where the dog park is, which is the north end of Pavilion Park. We would work with the adjacent Reunion subdivision and add a couple of curb cuts from the street that they're looking at building currently. Negotiate with them and ACHD to get those curb cuts installed prior to construction of that roadway. So the city doesn't have to come in and remove sidewalk and add those curb cuts in for where that parking lot would end up being, as well as looking at parking lots along the southern portion of the park for future expansions for phase 2 and 3. That includes landscaping, irrigation, and all of that for the dog park. And then for Blake Haven Park, again, currently there's stormwater problems out there, and this project started is just looking at ways to mitigate some of the parking lot flooding that happens out there. But as we met with the mayor and we met with Bob of your Parks Department, looking to get it compliant and more stroller friendly out there. We're looking at adding significant amount of concrete from the restroom area out to the playground area, and revising some of the irrigation system, and also potentially adding a drinking fountain closer to the playground equipment. It's on the.
And I think we were having a cover area for the parents to sit
Yes.
under.
Yes.
Over there by the playground equipment, and then start a sidewalk pathway going along the fence line around that park. So you can have a walkway around that park.
Yep. So in reality, we have 3 separate projects going on. But in interest of the city, combined them into one scope.
And so the order of getting these done would be Hunters Creek first, because baseball season will be here in March, and we have a lot of interest right now to get into baseball just because of everything that's gone on this year. And while that's going on, they will work on the Pavilion Park to work on the dog park stuff, part next, so we get that opened up this next year. And then go run into Blake Haven, or maybe do them simultaneously. I don't know. I mean, we'll just see how that works out.
There would be a cost savings and if we were to combine the pavilion bid with the Blake Haven bid.
There'll be cost savings on that, so we can do that too.
Is that cost savings already captured, or is it would be something lower than 180,700?
That would be probably close to a 10% reduction on that 180,000.
I do have one question. I see a term in here I don't like, but I understand sometimes, especially in construction, you have to have it. Time and material. That is a non-deliverable line item, which means we can get nothing for it. Can you just elaborate on task 8 for me, please?
Task 8 is a construction observation task. If you read through the task, that guarantees 6 hours of observation per week for us to go out and oversee oversee is probably not the correct word, but to observe what the contractor is doing, to meet with the contractor and make sure that plans are moving forward in compliance with what we're doing. That is a T&M not to exceed. We can put that as a lump sum item, but typically we find that with these construction observations, we don't always use all of that budget, and this is actually a cost savings opportunity for the city. If we do these as time and materials not to exceed, and that's what this is a not to exceed. I believe that, $43,900. Typically, we end up using 85 to 90% of that. We're currently looking at the 960 South Main project. That project, crossing our fingers, is wrapping up this week. We're sitting at about 85% of that time and materials observation construction budget. And that allows us to review pay applications, to review RFIs from the contractor and all those types of items.
Yeah, I didn't get this till late, and I didn't get all through but if it has a not to exceed, that puts the brakes on it. I've just been burned by time and material.
Understand.
Not by you.
No. And that's why we typically, especially with clients who we work with repeatedly over and over, such as we do with the City of Star, we typically like to put those as a not to exceed to give you a comfort level. Because we understand we don't want to write a blank check to anybody.
That's our common theme here, no blank checks.
Put it on the wall.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
so I just want to clarify that this is all for surveying and design and engineering and oversight. There's not one shovel of dirt that's actually turned towards getting anything built.
Correct.
That would go out to bid.
That would go out to bid.
Right.
And are you handling those? Are you helping prepare like those bids?
Absolutely.
Yes, okay.
Yes, we are handling the bid meetings. We are doing the bid evaluation. We are handling the contract documents. Ultimately, we get all those prepared. We give them to the contractor, he signs them, and then we provide them to the city for the mayor to sign. That time includes us coming back and recommending the contractor to the city.
So it'll be similar to what we did for 960 Main with them.
And so you're still working with the city, correct? Like as that process, like through 960 South Main?
Yep.
Yeah, so you're managing, like the project manager
Yep.
of it. So,
I'm out there at least once a week for 960 South Main. Mayor and I talk regularly on that project.
So anytime I discover that there may be a problem or an issue, I send it to him and have him get the answers and get it taken care of on there.
yeah.
What I do.
So if this has the same oversight as 960 West Main, which I know that the mayor goes there about every 28 minutes. And so
Thought he had a sleeping bag there.
Yeah.
So forgive me, I'm a little ignorant on this sort of thing. So I'm listening to this time and materials discussion about project oversight, and I'm thinking, yeah, that makes sense because you're making sure it's being done right. But we're not actually doing anything.
Correct.
So what kind of oversight is required when we're not doing anything?
Well, this takes us through when the projects are finalized and built. So this includes hiring a contractor and us overseeing that contractor.
So when we are actually doing something.
Correct.
That oversight.
Yep. Which is why it's the last task involved.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
so I just want to clarify that the Hunters Creek Park work is what you would consider time sensitive and urgent at this point in time.
Correct.
Is anything else urgent and time sensitive at this point in time?
I guess it depends on how fast we want the dog park and stuff done. I mean, that's entirely up to you guys on
Well,
that.
and-
I mean, in my opinion, we want to move forward and start designing and getting this stuff all done. So right after the Hunters Creek Park, we get it out to bid, and as soon as the ground is thawed enough, they can start breaking ground on that stuff, right? And we can get into it in the fall, but.
Well, here's where I'm going with this. And Ryan, I have to change hats now.
Understand?
I'm putting on my steward of public goods hat. And I'm wondering if we should contemplate taking the part that's not urgent and putting that out to public bid as part of our stewardship function of
So then-
public resources.
Let me ask you this question. We can certainly do that. Then I need to hire Ryan to put out the documents together to put it out to public bid also. So there's going to be a cost associated with that because I can't put those documents together. That's not my purview. Just so you're aware, if we're going to do a public bid for any of those additional services, we're still hiring them to put the documents together to put it out to bid for people to bid it. Right? So.
Can I add, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
My contracting experience is limited in final design and the design of what you're going to build. However, I've seen enough of it to where, and this is just a swag on my part, that these numbers seem about reasonable. My one question I had was Pavilion Park Phase 1. I was like, why is that one so much higher? But that's got the parking lot, dog park, and pickleball. Maybe not in that order.
Phase 1 would not be, does not include pickleball, but it does include the parking lot. It does include parking lot lighting, dog park lighting, paths around the dog park, landscaping of the dog park, and irrigation for the dog park. But the pickleball, we anticipate would be in Phase 2, possibly Phase 3.
There's only going to be 2 phases, man.
All righty.
Great, Phase 2. Also, if I might address Councilman Key's comment, you could not, per the engineering rules, you could not send that out to bid. You would have to send that out for a request for qualifications. And then based on qualifications, you would then negotiate with the top qualified firm for a contract price.
A little different. Yes, I
And
apologize.
I'm also gonna make one more question here because it's all lumped. That sometimes gives a discount because it doesn't have the extra phasing, which adds extra days, and extra days adds extra manpower and time is money.
Well, and that's why I said if we were to combine Blake Haven and Pavilion, immediately we could pull out task 7C because we would bid Blake Haven and Pavilion as one bid process, and task C would go away, or task 7C would go away, and there would be some cost savings in task 8 because those 2 contracts would be running together and we'd only be dealing with one contractor as opposed to 2 contractors. And also there would be some savings in task 4 and task 6 because now instead of doing 2 separate, contract documents, specifications, all of that, we're now doing one. So, and that's where that 10% savings would come into play.
Could you reflect that in a revised document showing that? Because these all say lump sum, except time and material.
We can absolutely revise and resubmit a document reflecting a combined for Blake Haven and Pavilion Park.
And the typo on page 8, it's Blake Haven Park. It just says Blake Have.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Keys.
So the other thing I think we need to discuss is that in our budget for this fiscal year, we've set aside $258,200 for parks development. This, without turning a shovel full of dirt,
Right.
up the vast majority of that.
And we'll bring
So-
that up in January when we're gonna reopen the budget to fund these projects with our park impact.
And that's where I'm going is if we're gonna move forward with this, we're gonna have to reopen the budget.
Yep. Now, remember, it's not right away 180,000 either. It's
No,
gonna be
I-
spread out over a period of time.
I understand that, but
God, how much time?
We anticipate this contract to run approximately through next September, maybe October. This budget was, and this scope was put together on I think it says a 10-month project schedule.
so
Could possibly use
likely
FY
all within this fiscal year,
Could possibly slip into FY22. Just
a little bit.
Mayor Chadwick, I
Yes,
had
ma'am.
a different question about Hunters Creek Park, the area that you're looking at. I know last year that there was some, like a group that got together to talk about a playground at Hunters Creek. So that's not in the same
That's not-
area.
No,
So
it's gonna
that,
be out here.
right. So, and then also we were talking about have a paved path that goes from the area that you have there in between the baseball fields out to the flagpole and then connects in with the west parking lot. Just curious, like,
We can look at that as an alternate on that. It's easy to do, but we have to look at the slopes and everything on that, on how that sidewalk's gonna run along there, if we're gonna make it ADA compliant.
okay, I'd like to include that
Yeah, we
alternate.
can do that as an alternate
Okay.
on there.
Okay.
There was some work done, like I said, and Bob would know about that. He
I
was.
have this stuff on the.
We talked a little bit about the tot lot out there.
Uh-huh.
It was determined based on conversation with Bob and the mayor not to include that in this scope. But I'm not opposed to looking at those.
Okay, that'd be
That
great.
project's gonna be about 150,000 by itself.
Well, and it might need to be phased in, but I think if we can.
Well, we can always, yeah, we can
Yeah.
always come back and add it and
Yep,
phase it in.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. Councilman Keys?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this agreement with the changes as discussed and authorize you to negotiate with Keller, get those changes implemented into a final compensation package.
Okay, and you have a sharp pencil, right?
Always for the city of Star.
We're gonna sharpen that pencil a little bit.
I'm gonna second it.
All right.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Pickleball courts need lights. I just wanted to say that.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we're gonna move on to reports. Anything to report there, chief? Nothing to report. Sean? Councilman Hershey?
Just real quick, I met with Valley Regional Transit, just a one-on-one meeting to discuss board membership and the next actual meetings in January. But they have some really neat ideas, but I'm not going to stretch them out on here. I'm just saying, I've met with them, so it's getting going. That's my newest appointment.
Okay, Councilman Keys?
Mr. Mayor, I was able to participate with Councilor Salmonson and her son in Make Star Shine Day. I think that's a pretty awesome event for our city.
It is. Did you see the letter that we got?
Yeah.
That was awesome. Okay.
Transportation Committee's been, we've been pretty busy. We actually have another meeting tomorrow to follow up on some of these things, but we're working on updating our input into ACHD for the integrated 5-year work plan. We're updating our economic corridor access map. We've been working pretty diligently with Canyon Highway District number 4 on their impact fee efforts. And we all had that presentation here last week. You guys are aware of that. And we also put together some input into the proportionate share planning that we then, along with the mayor, we had a meeting with ITD, our first ever meeting on what to do with our proportionate share dollars. And I'll, Mr. Mayor, if you'd be so kind, I'll let you talk about the details of that meeting.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Okay, Councilman Nielsen. I saw her like getting ready to say something.
You know, I don't have much to report, so.
No, so to be fair, Council Nielsen is working with me on some of this economic stuff, and we're just waiting for some meetings to happen before we can actually report anything. So.
Thank you. I yield my time to Councilwoman Salmonson.
Well, thank
Okay,
you.
Councilwoman Salmonson.
Yeah, we haven't been able to give a report last month, so I had to go back and I will report from last month also. Thank you for your patience. I participated in the 2020 Idaho Walk Bike Alliance Annual Conference at the end of October. It was a one-day training. It was really interesting. Thank you, Mayor, for approving that. It was great. I just continue to get lots of education. Air Quality Board, I met with them, or we did our monthly meeting October and November. And I also met with our local Star Mission owner here. His name is Bo Bishop. Fantastic. We spent a couple hours and I got to learn, firsthand about testing and everything, that goes into it for vehicles. So don't drive out of town if you need your vehicle to see him. The Pathway and Beautification Committee, Make Star Shine Day was November 14th. Fantastic. We had over 40 volunteers. Thank you to everyone that volunteered. Around 250 bags of leaves were collected, and Councilman Keys and my son and I, we collected 10 bags between two houses. Yeah, and I think it was a fantastic event and look forward to it again next year. Let's see, the committee continues to work on the Pathway Master Map. They've made tremendous progress, and I think we'll have a plan to present to council, hopefully January, maybe next month, probably not in January. And last but not least, the committee is looking at dressing up the corner of the empty lot across from Maverick. So keep your eyes out on that. If you want to, I hope there'll be a banner out there and some nice landscaping and maybe an opportunity for a picture, Instagram or whatever people do on social media, tag it. And then Expo Idaho, I'm on that committee as well. We met in end of October. I think that project's going to wrap up probably in February. We have our next meeting next week, actually, but I'm unable to attend because of our council meeting here. But if anyone has comments or suggestions, they can go to Ada County website for that project.
Bring back horse racing.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Well, give them that comment. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, take it back. One more question, Trevor, for you. I noticed we haven't had public input for a number of our meetings here. I know that our agendas are very full, but are you planning on bringing that back? Okay.
First of the year.
January? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important that we get, have the opportunity
had-
for the public
Yes. Okay.
on anything that they want to, with the limit of 3 minutes or whatever.
With public, I mean, it's going to be a challenge with the current orders that we have in place. That's the problem we're going to have with the limit of 10 people. But we'll just have to work through it with Miss Dana over here on the online portion of it. So, all right, cool.
Thank you.
Just 960 Main, we're hoping that it's done. Well, majority of it will be done by Friday. It's looking really good over there. We're planning on doing a tree lighting ceremony on Saturday. And so we'll get more information out tomorrow on that, correct? Huh? This coming Saturday, the 7th, or I'm sorry, the 5th of December at 7, correct? We, poor Sean and Ryan, they're like swamped in here with so much stuff going on. And they're working their tails off on trying to get like the comp plan done. And we put Ryan on other tasks and the scanning stuff we're about done with, believe it or not. That's pretty cool. We're moving along quite quickly on that. The building department software upgrade that we're doing should be done. We're crossing our fingers by the first of the year, which is quicker than I think what we thought, which is awesome. The fiber optics project that we have going on should be going live on part of it this week and the rest of it next week, which is another cool deal that we'll have here as well. So we got a lot of things. We got a lot of things working and moving and shaking around here right now, which is I think is cool, and we'll just keep that process going as we can. I've been on many of these emergency management calls, and it's the same thing. I think people need to understand, on the COVID deal, it's not necessarily about not catching COVID. It's about overwhelming hospitals, right? And making hospitals make unnecessary choices that they don't need to make. And so we just all need to do what we can to protect ourselves and each other and our neighbors. And whatever that is, do it, right? I'm not going to tell you that you have to wear a mask or any of that kind of stuff or what your feelings are, but just do the right things to help alleviate the overwhelming of the hospitals. And I tell you, I want my freaking kids in school all the time, because Eagle High, right before Thanksgiving, had to go all virtual because they had a big outbreak over there, at Eagle High. So it's just, I think it's impacting them, and I get concerned about them and some of the folks that you see out in the communities that are not getting the attention that they deserve. So, any questions of me or anything? Oh, I'm sorry. You asked me about ITD. So we had an ITD meeting, which they're very excited about what's going on at ITD, about us signing that agreement here last March or April timeframe. They do have other cities that are jumping on board with that. And so they were very appreciative of that. And we had a meeting talking about the projects and the things that we want to try to get done with this money within the city of Star. And one of the things we're trying to, that we're going to work on is trying to get maybe from Canada Road to Highway, or to Star Road widened sooner than later, right? Utilizing some of this money and utilizing some of the people that are building over there if we can, and trying to wrap that all in and get that project done, because it's not even on the books to get done for a long time right now. But this is opening up. I think we have $1.3 million or something like that committed to this fund already. That's pretty good for not being open for very long, right? Or 1.8 million. Yeah, 1.8 million committed to this fund already, which is, that's a great deal for us on there. And we're gonna have a follow-up meeting, I think here, did we say January or February timeframe, to follow up with these the projects, and really we're trying to fill this out. What does this look like? We're kind of the guinea pigs with them on this whole thing, and so we're gonna set this process in place that they can utilize it in other areas as well. So did I answer all that, I think, on there? At Palmer, down at the other end. Yes, we talked about getting that light at Palmer and Highway 44 done sooner than later, because we're our impact area and our city is going to grow right to that spot. So that would help assist on getting that light in place and help grow that development over there too for commercial businesses. So, all right, anything else? No? Okay, we are going to need a motion to move into executive session.
Mr. Mayor.
And when we do that, we're going to shut everything off and kick everybody out. Thank you. Yeah, okay, Councilman Keys.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session under Idaho Code 74-2061B Personnel Review.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. This is a roll call vote.
Councilman Hershey,
Yes, aye.
Councilman Keys,
Aye.
Councilwoman Solmonson,
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen,
Aye.
Okay, we are moving into executive session at 9:35. So we'll get everybody out, we'll get everything shut down and everybody out of here, and then we'll just